So, hey, June, I just want to say a big thank you for coming along this evening. It's a couple of weeks before the 40th birthday celebrations of New Life Church, but I thought it'd be really great just to do a bit of filming and also, to give a backstory to when the church first started. So I just wonder if you could, in your own words and take your time, just to explain a little bit of how you and Ray felt called of God to start New Life Church.
Well, first of all, you're all very welcome. Going back 40 years, that really a bit hard. Yeah, a bit scary and a bit hard, because I like living in the present, but it's also good because it makes me very thankful for where we are now. And we were obviously younger. If they look closely at the picture at the back, was probably around about that age, and God began to speak to us about we got to do something different. We were in what apparently appeared a very live church, but we knew it was time for us to leave, and we didn't know what we were doing. So we decided to worship as a family together we were quite a large family, for 6 weeks and see what God said. And during that 6 weeks, by waiting on God and listening we had a very good input from a guy who was a prophet from London, and we knew what we got to do. We'd got to plant a church. I don't know if it came in as clear words as that, but that was the end result. And so we did. We were living in a house built in the 60s, very sort of modern, and we just opened our lounge. And I remember my son playing the drums used to have to be under the stairs, and we couldn't get everybody. It was quite a big lounge, but we still couldn't get everybody in. And then people started joining us, and that was quite a surprise, because I think in the very beginning we hadn't expected that to happen for some time. We were just thinking, right, we'll go ahead, but people were actually coming and saying, how's it going, what you're doing, can we join you? And actually our first, what I feel was a open meeting for others to come, was in May, because that was 40 years ago, it's gone. And we had a group come down who were helping refugees at sea, and they were aiming to get a boat so they could go out and do it. A current topic now, and it was the Vietnamese refugees they were seeking to rescue, and they come down and talked about that, and the word got round and people came and joined us. We used to meet at 3 in the afternoon, and so we always consider that was the first meeting, and we kind of just grew from there.
Yeah, because it was it was a season when there was quite a lot of newer churches starting, wasn't there?
Definitely.
So, across the length and breadth of the UK, there seemed to be small groups of people doing what you and Ray felt called to do. And obviously, if we look back, if we look to today, and many of those churches that obviously started like New Life are no longer in existence.
Right.
So, there is a lot to be thankful for.
Very much so.
That 40 years later, New Life Church is still going and going strong. So obviously the things that you and Ray put in place has stood the test of time. So I know Ray's no longer here, but as we always laugh sometimes, he would still come and say, check your Bible verses when you were speaking, and can I just say something? And I'm sure if he was here now with the guys that are filming, he'd probably want to say a few things.
Oh yes, definitely.
About that, but
definitely.
But you and Ray put in some good building blocks, didn't you?
And if you remember, because you were quite young back then.
Yes, I was.
And 2 of the things that he made, not rules, but he liked people to do when they joined the church, was to go on the marriage course. There was a very good marriage course at the time, because he believed in Christians having strong marriages, and to get a passport, because he also believed they should be people who travel and go and see what God's doing in the world, because it's something we'd done for some years. We'd been into Europe and all sorts of places, and this was something we wanted to see continued, and it did for a long while. As you know, the church went to Romania and Poland, and it was just great what God opened up.
As India, Hong Kong, I mean, there's lots of places that people from New Life Church have travelled to.
Yes.
And yeah, they were just as wacky as probably starting the church. I remember, when we first started going into Romania, we collected loads of clothes, and some of the clothes that we collected were so poor, didn't we? We didn't feel we could take them, so we burnt them. And I remember some people in the church got quite upset because they thought we should have took out clothes, but you didn't want to take out rubbish to countries that had
because
nothing.
I think one always aimed for excellence.
Yeah, of course.
And if you wouldn't want it yourself, why should we just sort of palm all this sort of stuff off? And so I think we tried to sort of change values a bit, and of course by this time people were joining us, and it wasn't us all the time. If I look back, I would think, gosh, I'd have probably chosen somebody else if I was God. But he knew how mad we were. We'd probably say yes. So, and gave us lots of encouragement along the way. He spoke to both of us through there's an Anglican church just up the road here from where I live, and the view is fantastic. You can see across to Kent. And independently, he spoke once when I was up there to me, and once to Ray. And it was about our influence would go as far as these lights could be seen, because you can see the lights for miles around. And when I look back now and see that we have got people from all those areas, and just saying to Tim, one of our great technicians here today, that actually it went as far as Kent, and of course you've got this link with Eastgate in Kent.
Fire.
Even sort of realising today that, gosh, you have actually made a connection across there.
Yeah, I think the thing is, one of the dangers of looking back is you often look through rose-tinted spectacles, don't you? So people remember the highlights, but there were lots of challenging times. I remember, you took a stance on women in leadership, and that didn't go down too well. Still doesn't in some circles, which 40 years later you still think, wow. Worship is a lifestyle. Parents should. I can remember, parents are responsible for their children's spiritual well-being. So there's lots of things that you and Ray put in place, didn't there? That wasn't always readily received.
Popular.
Yeah.
Well, it's even starting a church was, what are you doing this for? Because Ray lived in Wickford all his life, and obviously I'd come here in 1954, and so we knew a lot of people in the Christian world, and many of them actually also then started either joining us or always inquiring how we were doing.
Yeah. Over the years there's been lots of sort of, God has given lots of different words, hasn't he? But I know that one that you were talking about as we just before we started the filming was that from Jeremiah 1, the word of the Lord came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah? I see the branch of an almond tree, I replied. And you were just recollecting that at one of our meeting places, I think it was the rectory, there was a picture on the wall, wasn't there, of an almond tree, and as a
result of that word.
And there's been many words given over the years. I guess some we've completely kind of forgot, and maybe they were irrelevant, who knows, maybe we just missed them. But I remember in 1985 Ray did a picture, didn't he, with a vision of an eye in the corner, and I think Matthew, your son, drew it all up. And it's quite interesting when we look back now that most of those things that were there were written down, have been fulfilled. So God has been faithful to us, and
so faithful, and amazing the people He's added to us. One of our very newer members I went up to recently and said, I just thank God for everybody who walks through that door. and all the gifts they bring with them. And even if they've just become Christians, we know God's going to develop gifts in them. And you know, it just amazes me. I never stop to being amazed at what God has done, and He took something that was nothing and made it into the church that it is now, and hopefully going to continue to grow and more people coming in. And I'm just so thankful that I've been blessed to live long enough to see it all, and I'm quite happy to see some more.